Great Veto delivers on the Brazilian wing.
I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution. And we're back for another installment of Heavy Muscle Radio. I'm Dave Palumbo, joined by the technician Chris Aceto in this first week of April 2025. And Chris, we have finally, Good Veto has clinched his first Mr. Olympia, I guess you could say, invitation and qualification, winning the Arnold Brazil in rather splendid fashion, as predicted. I have to imagine, as his coach, you're very excited and pleased.
Yeah, well, it was a bomb because it was a good bomb because Bob Chick says Chris has bombs, good and bad. So, I'll take the good bomb, Bob. This
was a nuclear bomb for sure. You know, before we start and wrap up everything, do all the stuff we have, because we have great news, obviously, you know, Veto winning, and then we have a few deaths to report, which I hate doing, but we have to do that. I bought my kids, well, I bought myself, but really my kids, a bunch of kittens, Siberian kittens. So I had to pick up the fourth one. I have 4 of them total. I picked up the fourth one from the airport with them this morning. And I get to the airport, and the woman, Renee Smith, meets me, who's the breeder. She flew it in from Colorado because they have so many kittens right now that her son usually delivers them, you know, and she was helping out. So she's like, she goes, you're a bodybuilder, or you were a bodybuilder, right? I said, yeah. So she's like, oh, you probably know my ex-husband. I said, who was your ex-husband? She's like, my ex-husband invented the Smith machine. I said, what? Because, you know, her last name is Smith, Renee Smith. I said, he is the Smith of the Smith machine? She's like, yeah, he invented the Smith machine. She goes, we're not together anymore, but I said, did he invent it while he was with you? She's like, no, before he met me, he invented it. I said, did he make a lot of money from it? I said, you know, she's like, I don't know. I don't think so, but I mean, he made something from it. I know he sold the whole patent and everything like that. But I said, you know, every gym has a Smith machine. I've never seen a gym that doesn't have a Smith machine, or that a machine that looks like a Smith machine and people call it a Smith machine. She's like, yeah, isn't that funny? Like, of all the people it's just a weird.
I guess you could patent anything, right? So I guess it was probably a patent and all that. And
I mean, but think about it. I mean, you know, even Arthur Jones hasn't named the Nautilus machines after himself. It's not like the Arthur Jones, you know, pullover machine, you know, Nautilus pullover machine. So I thought that's really cool. If you're going to be known for, I mean, think about it. If you're going to be known for something for the eternity, I mean, that's not such a bad thing, you know, to say, hey, that Smith machine, I created it, you know.
Dave, so your kittens, because Dave, I want to tell people a crazy story about you because there's too many.
Mm-hmm.
This had to be, I've told it before on the show years ago.
Okay.
We went to the New York Pro.
Right. And I know what you're going to tell.
We were driving back to it was so late. It was like 1:30 in the morning, and Dave's like, "Oh, I just nonchalantly, I just got to make a pit stop at Kennedy Airport." I'm like, "What?"
It was actually LaGuardia Airport.
LaGuardia. He said it won't take long. I'm like, "What are we going to the airport for?" 1:30. I thought like you had traveled and stuck there, or that's the only thing I could think of. Dave had to run in and get a FedEx order that was delivered. I don't know why it wasn't delivered to your house, but you had to pick up a fish.
I had. There's a fish called an arowana. They're pretty popular. And at the time, they had just produced the first. They called them albinos, but they were really leucistic. They were all white with black eyes and a red pupil, arowanas. And I happened to know the guy who had access to them in Hawaii, and I bought 2 from him, and he shipped it to he had to ship it like Delta. Delta ships animals and stuff like that. And so I had to pick it up at the airport. They don't deliver. And it came in like on a Saturday night, and he's like, "Oh, the fish arrived. You have to get it. You know, if you don't pick up the fish was worth, like $500. These 2 fish. I had to go get them." And we were coming back from a show in Jersey. I think it was the Weinberger show. It might have been the New York Pro. And we stopped at LaGuardia on the way back. I picked it up, and then I had to go to my office where the fish tank was, and I had to put the fish in the fish tank. And then we went home, and then we probably got home about 3 a.m. But yeah, I'm when it comes to animals, I'm a nut like that, and I have to have the best and the stuff that no one has. And
well, that was the first time I stayed at your house.
That's right.
And you were the New York Pro that we were at the New York Pro. It was in New York at the time. But
yes.
And Dave had 1,000 things to do: tag photos, photos up. All this stuff, and you were busy a mile a minute, and your stress level with everything that was going on was 0. But when the fish came in, you didn't tell me there was a fish. You went into stress mode when you're like, "We got to get to the airport."
Because I was afraid they were going to die, Chris. That was what I was really afraid of.
And that was the craziest. Like I was so tired. I came down from Maine. I probably
And I felt bad too, because I know Chris was tired, and I'm like, "Chris, we got to stop at my office on the way back too. I got to put these fish in the fish tank there."
Well, then I crash on your bed.
Yeah.
I wake up the next day, and instead of nightstands, he has live snakes on the side of the bed. Big giant snakes, right?
Oh, that's all right. You stayed in the room. You stayed in. We used to call it the porn room because I had the mirrors all over the place.
Yeah.
Because I had mirrored the walls because I wanted to, have like, this is when I was still competing when I bought that house. I used to pose in the mirrors there, and I had a ball python in a tank. Yeah, there, or 2 of them maybe.
2 of them on each side.
Chris didn't realize there was a live snake in the tank. Yeah.
I jumped out of bed. I'm like, I ran out of the room, and you're like, "What's the matter?" I'm like, "What? You got snakes in there?" That's before you became really big into snakes.
I only had 2 snakes at the time. I actually had 2 snakes, and that was it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So you have a good memory, Chris. Not as good as Milos's, but pretty close. So
how can you forget that?
Yeah. So I got these. I got these 4 sites. So they have four Siberian cats. My kids are obsessed with them. They're great, beautiful cats. And
send me pictures of them.
I will. Yeah. Once we produce babies, at some point, I'm going to breed them. So once I breed them, I will.
Dave, it didn't even cross my mind that you would not breed it.
Jumbo Palumbo Siberians. And these are like bodybuilder cats. These things get beefy and stocky. They're thick. They're like may rest in peace, like Eugene Mission. They got a lot of like beef to them, and they're very hardy. They have to survive the Siberian winters in Russia, so they're tight. They're tough. So that's what my kids and I went and picked that up, and I met Renee Smith, the former wife of the Smith Machine creator. So there you go. There's always a tie to bodybuilding somehow in everything I do in life, Chris. Now, before we get to good Veto. There's a couple of terrible things. First of all, Val Kilmer died, who I have one of my favorite actors. I don't know about you, but I love Val Kilmer. I think one of his greatest roles was probably Jim Morrison in the movie The Doors. Did you see that one?
Yeah, I did see it.
Loved it. I loved it. I thought he was great. He actually became Jim Morrison in that movie. I thought that was like his greatest acting stint. But he was in a lot of great movies.
Yeah, a lot of good movies.
I didn't realize he was that sick. I didn't know that he was bedridden the last, couple of years.
It's funny. Yeah. I just, just maybe like 6 months ago, he came up on like MSN, something about being sick. And I was like, that's Val Kilmer. He looks so different, because he was sick.
How come all these good looking guys, Chris, in Hollywood, when they get a little older, it's like their face. I feel like my father. This is something my father would say. Their faces like fall apart. They get all bloated looking, and are they doing plastic surgery to themselves, or is it just like you can't be super good looking only Michael O'Hearn can be super good looking until the day he dies. Everyone else has got to if you got it early in life, they got to take it away from you like later in life. Like Mickey Rourke is another one, great looking guy. He ruined himself with plastic surgery, but I mean Val looked. I mean. He looked weird. His face was bloaty, and
he wasn't really that old, but he,
No, he wasn't. They don't even Johnny Depp. I was looking at his face. Johnny Depp was a good looking guy. I remember back in the day, I'm like, man, what a good looking guy this guy is. And he's another one. His face is all like bloated looking, and he has this weird mustache, and it's like he looks like creepy looking, you know?
Yeah, well,
still a good actor.
A lot of people say that about me and you, Dave. So
no, I don't think so. I think you know what it is. I don't think that guys that like are Irish and they're really good looking when they're younger, but they don't age well. Us Italians, we're not that great looking, but as we get older, we actually get better as we age. We're like a fine wine, you know. We mature well with age because we're oily. You know, if you're oily skinned, your skin seems to age better.
My uncle was like 75 and he looked 51.
Yeah, even you said your father also looked very young. Didn't he have
my father was 81. He didn't have a single wrinkle.
Yeah.
And he had
he had his hair too, right?
My God, he had the best hair of all time.
Yeah. So I mean, the Italians, I'm telling you, Italians age well. The Irish don't age well at all. Terrible, usually. Yeah. So
I would agree with that. The Irish crack.
They do. Yeah, they crack. Yeah, but they're such good-looking people when they're younger. The women and the men. Holy mackerel.
I would agree with that too.
They're like the features they have are incredible. I feel like Jimmy the Bull, like stereotyping people. Asian people age very well too, by the way.
No, where I grew up, a lot of Italians, like my father married Irish.
The Irish and the Italians.
Combustible marriages, they call it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Very explosive.
And the Italian grandmothers on day one, they teach the Irish wife to cook. Step one, this is how you're going to cook.
Right. But they don't pick it up. They don't have instincts. The Irish don't have instincts for cooking. The Italians do. Yeah.
My mother learned.
Oh, your mother learned? Oh, that's great.
I thought she was Italian, the way she cooked.
Your grandmother really? See, a lot of times they won't share the secrets, the Italian mothers, you know. So, but you see, you were lucky because your mother they shared the secrets with your mother. A lot of times they don't want to tell.
There was no. If guruism was cooking, there was no measurements at all. No,
it's hands. It's all hand movement.
Yeah. That's you got it, Dave. Because like we never had measuring cups because someone would ask my mother,
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, but like
visual of that, and that's how like meatballs were made, and manicotti and ravioli and
monogots. Yeah.
We did all that.
Yeah, but you know what it is? It's like some gurus will give you all the information, and a lot of gurus leave out information. You know, like important ingredients. Some Italian women they won't give you all the secrets because they don't want anyone to surpass them. They want to be the queen of cooking. You know, so they leave out key steps in the cooking process, and so you never quite emulate them.
My mother's was excellent, but my grandmother's was next level.
Really? Yeah. Okay. That's usually the way it is. My grandmother was next level too.
And my grandmother used to feed Fred Hatfield because Fred Hatfield's mother was his mother.
That's right. I forgot that. That's right. You're right.
It's so insane, isn't it?
Yeah. You see, you have 6 degrees of separation. So Fred Hatfield. Getting back to the Val Kilmer story. Yeah. So Val passes, and then I hear, CJ, Cynthia James. Those of you who I'm sure everyone in our industry has had some interaction with her because she's probably made 90% of all the posing suits out there. Was absolutely, I would say she's the best just because I'm biased because she always made all my suits for me. But when it came to custom posing suits for men and women, I think CJ really, she wrote the book.
When was the first time you met her? First suit, I'll tell you because I can predate you.
You go back before me. So I was competing. I did the junior nationals. I think I met her there. I didn't have a custom suited. I was buying the Andreas Calling ones, and someone told me you got to get CJ's to make your suit. So I think I asked her in '96 to make me a suit. I don't remember if I paid for it or not, but I know after that she literally would see me backstage. She's like, "Let me see your suit," and she's like, "No, I have a better style." And she'd get on the sewing machine and she'd be like, she'd hand me a suit. She's like, wear that. I'm like, what do I owe you? She's like, she would just like her hand in my face. And that's how we became friends. And she literally she made all my suits. If I had to do guest posing, she would make my costumes and stuff like that. And we just became friends. And then, she started dating Ron, Goldstein. And, I became friends with him. And I just saw it recently at Mel's show in December.
She was everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, I know her health was deteriorating because she had been telling me every time I saw her, I'm doing, this is bothering me, that's bothering me. But I talked to Ron earlier via text. Great guy, Ron is. Oh man, he's the best. And he told me that I think she had like 90 emergency room visits like last year or something like that. She just was having so many problems. And he was like, this was another one, and she just didn't make it. She was in the ambulance and she passed. Heart related. I think she had a heart attack. And we lost her. I mean, there's not one person, like I said, in the industry, at least from our era, that doesn't know her. I saw Dexter Jackson posted. Everyone's posting, because everyone had a great relationship with her. And like I said, she made most of the suits for at least the men and probably 50% of the women out there. So she'll be greatly missed. I mean, it's a terrible, terrible tragedy, that we lost her.
Yeah, she used to make suits for Jay. She used to make suits back in like.
Oh, that's right. She did all Jay suits too. That's right.
She did all the suits for Laura.
Oh, she even. Oh wow, that far back, I didn't even realize that.
We were living in Fort Lauderdale in 95, 96.
Right.
I didn't know. She said one day, we ran into her and she had a storefront in Pompano Beach.
That's right. She had that store for a while there. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, Pompano was a little, left for dead back then. Not
right.
the best there. It's come up a lot since then. And we went. She gave us the address. We went there. We drove there. No GPS. Here's the directions. And we went into her shop. And Dave! It was every inch was covered with material and invoices and envelopes. I mean, you couldn't move in the place.
Yeah, I don't know how she ran that business.
There was like sewing machines here and sewing machines there, and it was like complete, utter chaos. And she loved it,
Yeah.
There, and I think she had like one or two people helping her at the time.
Right.
And she was just going full blast, and like her phone was ringing when we were there, landlines mostly, right?
Yeah, right.
People needing suits and her shipping them out there, and all the pictures on the wall, but not framed yet. Like Dave Palumbo gives her a picture and it's just like put a tack on it.
Right.
At some point when she unburies herself from all this work, you could tell that she was going to it seemed like she was going to make that office like, quote, professional. But I mean, it was professional regardless because she put out a professional product.
For years, though, Chris, she would be backstage at all the shows, too. If you remember the USA and the Nationals, and she'd be sewing back there, right backstage, fixing people's suits for them, sewing new ones.
I can't even imagine, like, as big shows would come up, how many people would contact her and text her and call her. Like, I don't like the red. I need to go with the green. Or I've dieted. I've lost 5 pounds, 8 pounds more than I thought I was going to weigh. My chest is loose in the back.
Yeah.
Be cut from behind.
She had a great eye for what looked good aesthetically. Matter of fact, she's the one. She created that suit where you kind of pinch it in the back.
Yes.
Yes. Most guys have it's like this bloomery looking stuff in the back of the suit, and she decided to sew the seam there and pinch it a little bit so that it kind of cut in on your glutes, so you can see the top of your glutes. And that was her thing. And if you really think about it, all the girls that wear these Brazilian, spandex, that they sew the seam also down the butt cheek, so you can see the line in your butt. That really, they stole it from her. I mean, she's the one who invented that essentially.
She loved what she did. She loved bodybuilding. You know what, Dave? There's not a lot of people in the sport. I mean, there are, but people loved her straight across the board.
Yes.
She was and here's one of the many reasons why, and it's not the primary reason. When Dave Palumbo said, what do I owe you? She said, nothing. I don't know how many people she did that with. lots, too many, where she just, here's the suit, you know, she put her time into it, which was not paid for. She put her material into it, her design into it, and often was not paid. And I know people too, I would love to name them, but I wouldn't want to embarrass them, but you could guess who, Dave. I already gave up Jay. I already gave up the Jay. You know, people who like Jay, who would say, she would say like, no, it's free. It's like, no way.
Oh, he would make her take money? Oh, that's great.
Day one, no.
That's awesome. Yeah, well, he was, you know, Jay was a good guy, you know. She did Phil's suits. She did almost, you know, everyone had her do the suits for, I mean, I think she was actually better with the men's suits than the women's suits, because she understood, you know, a lot of people who do suits don't want to do men's suits because it's hard, you know. But and there's not as much money from men's suits if you think about it.
Yeah. She probably put Andreas Colling out of business.
She did. People don't realize that, you know, people would buy suits from Andreas like online. He had like a little ad in the back of the Muscle and Fitness and Flex, and you would order. It was like an off the rack. There was nothing custom about them. They kind of just fit like underwear.
Like this. They went 30. They were 26 to 28, 28 to 30, 30 to 32, and they were like maybe 10 colors.
Right.
And he came up with he had the Arnold type cut.
They had the Olympia cut, and then they had the right.
The high cut was the ones which, you know, were very slim around the hips, so that you could see the, you know, quads more.
Right. You're right. Now I'm remembering.
And that was innovation, to come up with, you know, the first person to cut Posen trunks from like the traditional stuff that like Franco wore, Danny Padilla wore.
Right.
So.
And then she took that to a whole new level.
Well, when we start the Bodybuilding Hall of Fame, we'll put her suits in there. The sewing machine, Dave.
Sewing. There we go. Yeah, we got to get that sewing machine for the Hall of Fame for sure. Wow. Didn't even think about that. All right. I'm going to pull up one more. Hold on.
All the goofy stuff that sounds goofy, that's memorabilia. There's a segment of the population who would like it. There's Cynthia James sewing machine. There's Dexter's trunks, you know, when he won the Arnold for the 50th time.
Or when he set the all-time record with the most wins. Yeah. Unbelievable. We also lost another person. I don't know if you know who he is. Did you know the promoter John Hec? Heck. He promoted shows. I think he worked for Muscle. I think he worked for Joe Weider too.
Yeah, I know John.
You know John. He's been around. He was around for years, and he promoted shows in Pennsylvania. I actually guest post for him. I believe it was in 01 at the NPC Pennsylvania or something like that. Great guy. He was around. He knew everyone. He was around for a long time. He was already old when I met him in 2002. So he had to be pretty old when he died recently.
John Hec would remember every person's face and name.
Oh, that's right. You're right.
And John Hec would approach you like, let's say he didn't know you, Dave Palumbo. He would come up to you and say, "Hey, Dave Palumbo," and he'd regurgitate your entire resume.
I didn't know he had a photographic memory like that.
And he'd introduce himself as John Hec, and I met him. John worked when I was at the bodybuilding camp. We're talking 89, 90.
Yeah.
John was up there with Life Fitness as a sales guy. So John Hec, because he had gray hair then, he gave the appearance of being older than he was, even though he wasn't old. That was, you know, I'm talking 1990. So with 90, I mean.
Oh, wow. Oh, he had gray hair in 1990? Oh, my God. Wow.
How do you say, Dave?
I don't know. It might have been old age. I have to look it up. By the way, I got to show you this one picture. Sergio Oliva Jr. posted this picture of CJ with his father. Look at how young she is here. I didn't even know she went back that far. I mean, she was 65, but she had to be close to 65 years old. That's a great picture, isn't that, of her and Sergio?
Beautiful picture.
She's so young there. Wow. That was before I don't think I met her when she was that young.
No, that had to be like mid 2008.
No, you think so? That had to be in the 90s, Chris, that picture.
Maybe.
It's a great picture, though. Oh, leave it to Sergio to find that picture.
He's the best.
Unbelievable. Wow. Love that. Sergio, great job. That was a great picture you found, man. He's like Milos. Milos has pictures of everyone from all the way back in the 80s, probably. Anyway,
Milos the Epstein of bodybuilding photos. Epstein had a photo of every single person who was important on the planet.
I got news for you. If Titus was smart, he could have had the Epstein files if he played his cards right with all the parties he held. I got news for you. All right. Well, we want to send our condolences out to CJ's family, friends, and loved ones, and of course John Hec's family, friends, and loved ones, and Val Kilmer's, of course, too. So we lost a lot of good people this past weekend. That's never fun, but it's part of life, obviously. Let's switch gears and let's get some really good information and some good vibes going. Good Veto, no pun intended. Chris delivers. He wins the Arnold Classic in South America. We knew he had to be the favorite going in there. Talk to me a little bit about what he did right and why he won the show.
He won, best guy on stage. I mean, freaky legs, freaky width, big arms on the front double, crazy glutes and hams, small midsection on the abs and thighs. His vulnerability, of course, is a front lat spread, which I think is just the way he poses it.
Yeah, I don't think he hit the right. You're right.
I've never met him. How's that?
Oh, everything's just been done via like text and email?
3 years and not one. We haven't met ever.
I love it.
It's weird because I 3 years of competition. Of course, the first year he didn't get the visa, which was completely devastating. But I've never even met the guy.
And but does he still speak little English, or is he better now?
No, he's as you know, he looks like Jay Cutler there.
Well, yeah, that's why I put this picture up. Chris sent me this picture. He goes, "You got to see. He looks like a young Jay Cutler." There, I said,
"Yeah." He probably doesn't even know he's probably wearing CJ trunks he got somewhere.
Yeah, he might be. He might be. Great. I was a little surprised that there wasn't a better lineup there. That used to be a very popular show. Why do you think the people aren't going to this show and down in Brazil? Is it too hard to get there? I mean, I remember the years when Cedric and Ramy were there, and it was a top level show. God,
there were a lot of bone. I mean, I went down a couple of years in a row. The lineup was extremely good.
Yeah, it seems weird that it wasn't better than what it was.
I mean, they're probably not giving out chump change, I'd imagine, for prize money either. So I don't know why people don't go down. I was surprised with the lineup. I mean, I didn't know what the lineup was until the show started, but I was expecting, not expecting, but you would imagine so-and-so, someone with a name be in the show.
I mean, he was really peaked out really well. There's some video out there that's not so good because it was a little cloudy, but this is good video right here. You can see how good he looks. I mean, Chris, I look at this and I'm not just saying this because obviously you're coaching him or he's here, but I mean, I'm saying to myself, I mean, this guy could win Pittsburgh very easily, against guys like Martin and Nick Walker.
Yeah, you got to see them next to each other. I mean,
I don't want to jump the gun, but I don't see many weaknesses in his physique. His conditioning is crazy. I think he's got better legs than Martin and Nick, and he's got a small waist. I mean, what is he missing?
Not too much. I mean, he, as you know, in Detroit last year, I think he was behind
Martin.
He lost prejudging by a point. And ended up getting second to Martin, and a week later, Martin was lost by a point to Nick. So
it wasn't a week. It wasn't a week
but
later.
Just to illustrate, the level of competition between Martin and Nick, where we were there last year in New York, and then back at just the week before, 2 weeks before, I think it was Detroit. Where he compared really well with Martin, and of course Martin goes on to fourth at the Olympia.
Well, my take on what happened last year was that he should have beat Martin in Detroit, right?
I thought he had Martin in Detroit.
I thought he had him easily. Martin, I think, believed that he didn't. I don't think Martin thought he should have won, because I talked to Martin, and that's why he decided to do New York. And then what he delivered in New York was really a knockout performance. Martin then beat Nick there. Unfortunately, they didn't let him beat Nick, but he did beat Nick, and then he showed up at the Olympia. Great. But really, I think there wouldn't be many people that would argue that the good Veto easily could have beat Martin in Detroit, last year.
Well, I mean, not to take it is the reason I brought up that that Martin had beaten him by a point. So I mean, people on the judging panel, there were some judges who felt that way as well. So and good Veto weighs more this year than he did last year. So by about 10 pounds.
It's going to be a great rematch. I think people should be excited. The fact that Vito's going to, now that, I mean, he doesn't really need to do the show, but he's doing it anyway, which I think is great, because we're going to see where he stands. I mean, Martin was fourth, right, last year at the Olympia. So if Vito wins or beats him and beats Nick, I mean, that really puts him into a top 5 conversation. If he doesn't, no one's expecting anything anyway. So, I mean, I don't think he has anything to lose in Pittsburgh. Yeah,
I don't think he has anything to lose. And I think the fans will, I mean, it's turning out to be, the show of the year, really.
Yeah.
I mean,
Jim Manuel's got to be thrilled the fact that he's got such a great lineup from Pittsburgh.
Yeah, you don't need 30 guys in a show when you have, headlines like these that are running into the show.
I mean, Nick, think about it. Nick, Martin, good Veto. I mean, there's going to be other guys that are good in the show too, but I mean, that's
Derek is in the
top show.
Derek is in the show.
And Derek, you know what? I blocked out. I mean, this is like an Olympia lineup here we got here. This is incredible. I mean, this is, look, I know Jim was probably a little worried that, hey, we're not going to get the lineup that we normally do because the Arnold and the Olympia get it. But you know what? This is shaping up to be, better than anyone expected. And you know what? $100,000 on the line, we'll do that. And once again, I give you all the credit. Chris said consistently over and over, you're not seeing lineups at these shows because they're not giving away enough prize money. Jim makes a first-year show, gives away $100,000, and look at this lineup we got going there. So
yeah, I mean, people want to, you can understand. I mean, I don't know what the prize money was down in South America for the Arnold, but you can understand just
look it up.
People wanting to, save themselves for like the Olympia or the Arnold, but here we are, Pittsburgh, $100,000, and everyone's throwing their hat in.
Yeah. We'll try to look up the prize money. Keep talking.
It's going to be, you've got the Martin Nick story. You got the, from a repeat of New York, and then you got the Detroit Martin good Veto story. And then, of course, Derek just winning the Arnold coming into the show. I mean, what's his face is looking good. What's his face? What a way to mention him. The big giant German guy with the big giant arms.
Yeah. I know he's. I'm just looking something up here. Crizzo.
No, I mean,
is Crizzo doing that show too?
Yeah, he's doing the show.
Oh, he's going to be good. He's not German though, but he's.
And someone else slips from my mind. Someone else is, headliner.
Leandro Perez looked pretty good in that show too this past weekend.
Yeah, he put on in the last 3 years a monumental.
What a ton of muscle this guy put on. I'm trying to find some video of him right now. In
the last 3 years, he's put on.
He didn't get blown away by any means by Veto.
No.
Which I think is, a testament to how good he was.
Yeah. He put on a ton of muscle, and it's just got to, sometimes it's not as dialed up when you put on a ton of muscle. You know what I mean? Only Kai Green put on a ton of muscle and had it dialed all at once.
Right. I think people are going to be very, very surprised and happy about this Pittsburgh show that's coming up. I think people are going to lose their mind. I wonder if all these guys will do the New York Pro also.
Dude, the prejudging is going to be off the charts at Pittsburgh because
I got my hotel room booked already. So
good. I may have to crash there.
Yes, that's fine. No, you know what? I literally I'm going because of this lineup. I have to go. How do you not go to this thing?
There's going to be
right.
Going to be disappointed.
I don't want to miss it. As a fan, I'm actually excited about the show. There's not many shows I get excited. I was excited to go to the Arnold too.
Listen, Duke folded in the last 2 minutes yesterday, so anything can happen at the.
I know. I saw that. My son is obsessed with Cooper Flag. So anything's possible. You're right. So hold on a second. Let me pull this up. Arnold's. What do you think? Where do you see Leandro Perez? A year or two from now, is this a guy who could be on the Olympia stage?
Yeah, winning shows. He's going to win shows.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that
he's big and he's got good shape, and he's tall. All three of those. He doesn't have any body parts that are like missing.
Yeah, he actually made good Veto look short. You're right. Which is interesting.
Yeah, it was a very good showing for him. I'm sure he wanted to win like everyone else, but he just ran up to somebody more seasoned than him, or hardly, but just with more polish and just better at this point in time. But he's very. Yeah,
I think that we're going to see a lot of stuff from him in the future. It's terrible when you go up against
third Cruz. What's his face?
Yeah, he was good too.
His face. It's most insulting. What's his face? Cruz.
Marcelo de Cruz.
Yeah, he was in very, very good condition.
Solid third with Andre Carlo. Everyone's from Brazil. Fourth, and Catiano Fossarini in fifth. And there was only one guy in the whole show from Paraguay.
Dave, on the live stream, take a guess how many people watching that show on the live stream.
How many?
150,000.
All Brazilian too, probably.
Yeah.
It's funny because we always say the Middle East is like the mecca of bodybuilding in the sense that it's like the number one sport in their country behind soccer, and Brazil has got to be right up there with these guys. They love their bodybuilding, man. These guys are like all superstars there. So
I think in terms of a fan base, even though they're crazy. The fan base, the Brazilian fan base, is probably the best fan base to have in the world.
Yeah, because they're so passionate about the sport,
Unless you lose.
Well, but I'm just saying they're passionate about, like, they get very emotional about it too. And I've been to a lot of, you and I have both been to a lot of shows in Brazil. You can't walk through those expos. Those people are crazy in the expo, and no one speaks a word of English there. And you could just, they're like so happy to see you. They're like hugging you and then grabbing you. Arnold, do you remember when you were at what was the booth that you were at, the Probiotica booth?
Probiotica booth.
And Arnold came to the booth and the Brazilian fans, he had the security, and they rushed past the security. Arnold looked like he was gonna cry.
Arnold was 20 feet from me, and he had all the bodyguards clasping arms, maybe like 25 people around Arnold, and they broke through that clasp, and they got Arnold to grab him, and Arnold's face was like complete chaos and panic. That was the show, Dave. That was the expo. It was so crowded that the fire marshal had shut the door. And then Eduardo wanted to pay 20 bucks. You could go out the back door, and more people in. You know that there's that saying like squashed in like sardines.
Yeah.
That metaphor hit home for me when I was there and Arnold was being rushed, and I said, "That's it. I am leaving," because you could not move with the amount of people. And I think that was like the first or second year that they had it. It's funny, Dave. Another Eduardo story is I went down to Brazil when Eduardo like comeback number 3 or something when he had surgery and came back from like 130 pounds to 212. And it was the last year he competed. I think it was like 18 or 19. And I went down and helped him prep the last week for the show there. And I remember seeing Good Veto backstage.
Right.
And I like looked over and he like raised his eyebrows because you see him on stage, he's very animated.
Yeah.
And all I could see is like legs, you know, legs are gigantic.
Yeah.
Body has caught up a lot since, but he had those wheels way back then. The funny thing is he didn't in I did watch that show and his condition was like miles off, but he still won the class based on, you know, when he hit a front double, the width. You know, he had the width and the quads.
Right.
It's like Jay, you know, Jay had the quads and the width.
Yeah. Yeah. He's very Jay-like, I think, his physique. And matter of fact, he has a smaller waist than Jay, but I think Jay was a little wider than him, but I think proportionally, it kind of balances out. I don't know if he can hold as much mass on his frame as Jay did, but like I said, I don't really see many weaknesses in his physique. And, you know, when I look at a physique, I always look for weaknesses, and I don't see any gaps. All his shots are very, very powerful, you know. And like you said, until we see him standing next to some of these guys that are better than him or theoretically better than him, we're not going to really know if he can hold his own or not. I mean, what did he weigh on stage?
250.
I mean, that's pretty. And what is his height?
5'1".
No, he's not 5'1".
I think he might be 5'7".
Oh, so he's a little shorter. Okay, so that might be the only drawback. You know, he might have some trouble with the taller guys like Samson and Andrew and some of the guys that are, you know, a little taller than him. But, you know, he's damn dangerous as far as I'm concerned. Now, I did see an update. Let me pull this up of Nick Walker at 5 weeks out. Let's pull this up. He looks like he's put a lot of size back on. They're not showing his legs. Upper body looks pretty big. I mean, you can't really tell a lot from pictures, but what do you think?
Looks.
He's very big.
I never look at pictures anymore because they're just.
Yeah, I mean, the lighting is very, very weird too, you know.
I mean, it's judged these days by pictures because a picture's not worth 1,000 words. It's worth 1,000 filters. I'm not saying by any means that he's filtering his pictures. He looks tremendous. Right. I just mean that you just can't tell anymore the way people look. I mean, Samson looks super dialed 5 weeks out. You know?
Yeah.
And he looked about the same on stage as he did 5 weeks out. I'm not saying Nick is not going to change in 5 weeks. I'm saying that pictures can be deceiving. You know, I'll give you an example. I thought Derek's pictures looked really good running into the Arnold, but I thought he looked a lot better in real life than the Arnold, than pictures I had seen running up to the show.
I think Derek and Good Veto are going to match up really well because they kind of like, you know, they're pretty similar in height. You know, they both got some freaky conditioning. You know, they both got really good legs. Back shots are dominant. I can't wait to see them on stage. I'm kind of interested to see how Nick is going to, you know, fare in comparison with them. I mean, he looks huge in those update pictures. His waist looks, you know, like his normal waist size. I mean, that's going to be tough for him to battle these guys with the tiny waists like Derek and Veto and even Martin has a pretty small waist. So he's going to have to try to outmass these guys and obviously out-freak them. And, you know, Derek and Veto have and so does Martin have freaky conditioning on stage. So it's going to be a really tough battle. I think Nick's going to have trouble in this lineup unless some of these guys come in off a little bit. Haven't seen Derek off this year. We haven't seen Veto off this year. Martin hasn't gotten on stage this year, but Martin has figured out how to dial his conditioning really well. So I think it's going to be a very, very, very dangerous show for Nick to go into, because if he doesn't do well here, it's, his stock is going to go way down, and I'm sure his confidence in himself is going to go way down.
Yeah.
If he does win and dominate the show, maybe because he's bigger and freakier than everyone else, then obviously it's going to do the opposite. His stock's going to go way up and his confidence level is going to soar. But it could be a disaster too for him.
Yeah, it's funny how people frame it like the only negative is against Nick. I'm not sure why it's like framed.
Well, because he's the guy everyone's billing as the next Mr. Olympia. He's billing himself as the next Mr. Olympia. So if you're going to bill yourself as a guy who's going to win the Olympia, you got to deliver.
The next Mr. Olympia. Well, that answers that question then.
Yeah, I mean, he's been saying, I'm going to win the Olympia. So if you're going to win the Olympia, you got to deliver. I mean, he hasn't been on the Olympia stage in 2 years. And so this is the show for him to deliver. If he delivers the knockout punch and takes these guys out, then I have to believe that he is really the guy maybe who's next in line. Especially if he beats Derek, who is a former Mr. Olympia and just won the Arnold. But if he loses to these guys, then that brings his stock way down. So that's a lot of pressure for him. And I hope he performs, because I like him. He's a good guy. I like his physique. He's freaky looking. Coming I was a mass monster myself, so with crazy conditioning, so I can relate to his physique. But it's not going to be a walk in the park. There's a lot of good competition here in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it's going to be. I mean, it's going to be. It'll probably be a nail biter. There's just so many things that can happen and go wrong, and for different people. And I mean, I think everyone's vulnerable when they're not at their very best.
Yeah.
And you've seen that with everyone. The names that we've mentioned, not everyone's come in at their very best all the time. So, what happens if everyone is at their very best? It's going to be hard to, work through as a judge.
I agree with you 100%.
Especially because you don't have like that weird factor of like, like if Hardy was in the show, we'd just be talking like Hardy's condition,
right?
Match it. And if Samson was in the show, we'd be saying, okay, he's going to be the biggest guy there, and the whole 9 yards, and the idea of where people would place would change. But due to like the height similarities of all of them, no one's that much taller than the other, and their own strengths and own weaknesses. I think we're going to see something going to be incredible.
Yeah. Did you see this teen classic guy at the Arnold Brazil?
I don't know. This Brazil with crazy teenagers.
You see this kid? He's pretty good. Let me see if it gets
crazy. I think
19 years old.
I think Eduardo might go through it. I think Eduardo coaches him. I don't know. Eduardo was coaching a phenomenal teenager last year, and the kid was 18. I think this is him.
This is the kid right here, yeah. Let me see who he tagged. I don't see him tagging anyone, any coaches, but I mean, for 19 years old, he's got really good development,
There was a kid like, I don't even know, 15 in the show or something. It was something.
Oh, was there really? Oh, shit.
Phenomenal for 15.
The Brazilians are, they're starting them young now. They're like, we gotta keep this, we gotta nurture this whole Brazilian thing that we got going on here. That's Bob would love that guy. he's like a Victor Tara,
We'd be if Bob was with him, we'd be talking like 24 months winning the Olympia. Right?
He's got 60,000 followers already. He'll probably have 1 million by Monday. It's great. I love to see guys doing so well.
Right? Would Bob not have him like?
Bob be like, yeah, you can win the Olympia in 2 years.
Oh, it'd be like, Dave, what place you get in the show, the international show? I got second to a 20-year-old.
Yeah.
What's your weight, Dave? 265. What was the kid's weight? Oh, 193.
You're right. You're right.
I would always have a way of bringing someone in like some easily little weight.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's, I finally found the video I was looking for good Veto versus Leandro Perez. Here we go.
Here, Dave, you can handicap it with your best Howard Cosell voice.
Oh, hold on. If Veto wasn't in the show, this guy wins. I mean, he goes to the Olympia. So I mean, it's he's that close. Veto just had more wow and more firepower in his physique. That's all. I mean, that's all there is to say.
I think there's a lot of firepower to it.
I noticed that Veto brings his elbows a little too low on that double bicep from behind.
Yeah.
I don't know why he does that. Does he realize he's doing that?
I don't know.
Because can't communicate with him. Tell him to lift those elbows up a little higher, man.
Don't best cord hamstrings. Jay used to be able to hit both hamstrings like that. Yeah,
the glute hamstring looks just like Jay's. I think that's why we always keep comparing him to Jay's physique, because he's got that same, and he hits the side tricep the same as Jay too.
That side tricep he could hit a little bit better, I think.
Yeah, he can pull that. I think he's like slumping down on his waist too much. Great front double though. Love it. Excellent. Good comparison right there. I saw on Instagram that someone was saying that maybe Ronnie was saying it, that Ronnie said he might walk again. Did you see that?
I heard somebody told me that.
Hold on, let me pull this up here. These guys like they scour the I don't know how these social media guys they're like they scour the net for all these like stories, that let me pull this. I got president of Mexico. President of Brazil calling me. He wants to get on the show here. All right, hold on a second. Let me pull this up here. Yeah, this is the story I found. Ronnie Coleman comments on social media about his possible return to walking again in 2 years.
Oh my goodness.
So let me see what he says here. Let's see if we can do this.
Understands that he's got stiffness there from the buildup of scar tissue. And that's going to affect how all the joints move. And that's going to affect how all of the muscles work to provide stability. And so, he has a team of people that are kind of breaking down the different aspects of where the deficits are, and then trying to work on each aspect separately, but then coordinate it together for the overall goal of getting them back to walking.
Nice and easy.
There you go.
Good. Listen. All warmed up.
Most athletes have pretty good body awareness.
I know Ronnie every 6 months goes to Regenmex down in Puerto Vallarta, where I went, the stem cell clinic there, because my friend Daniel owns it. He's telling me that Ronnie comes every 6 months and gets stem cells right into his back. So, you know what? If anyone can walk again, I would say it's going to be Ronnie. Now, Ronnie, remember, is not paralyzed. He just has so much. His spine is so weak, and there was so much compression there. All the hardware they put in there. That's what was causing him to not be able to walk. So, if anyone can strengthen themselves and basically put their mind where they need to be to make a comeback of that type. And when we're talking about comeback, I mean comeback to walking again. I think Ronnie can do it. He's the Michael Jordan of bodybuilding. It's like, they always say if you put your intention on what you want, you can create it. I think that Ronnie believes so strongly in everything that he does. The guy won 8 Mr. Olympias, right?
Well, he won 8 Olympias, and he built a nutrition company.
Yeah.
And both of those, hard work begets hard work.
Yeah. And
I know people who had worked for him, for the supplement company, and traveled with him and said, his work ethic. I said, of course, you saw that with bodybuilding.
Yeah. He doesn't let the fact that he has to be in a wheelchair stop him from making all his appearances. He goes everywhere, this guy.
Yep.
And what a fitting way that would top off his career if he actually was able to start walking again. And not only think about it, Ronnie's rags to riches story. He was delivering pizza, right? And then he got a job as a police officer, and then then Brian Dobson gives him a free membership to the gym if he agrees to compete. He competes after less than a year. He wins his first show. He does the nationals against Kevin Levrone, Flex Wheeler, Paul DeMeo, Matt Mendenhall, and he places 5th naturally. Goes to the World Amateur Championships because no one else can take a drug test because he's the only natural guy in the top 5. He wins the whole overall, gets a pro card, and then he starts working, going to paying his own way to these shows, the European Grand Prix Tour. He finds out that these guys are all taking steroids. He starts taking steroids. He starts winning pro shows, and then he finds out that the steroids he's taking he's not taking really enough. He starts taking a little bit more. And he's winning Olympias after that. I mean, it's the story is incredible. It's just and then he retires because he's got an injury to his back that turns into 25 surgeries later, and the guy can't walk. He's in a wheelchair, and then imagine if he starts walking again after the doctors tell him he'll never walk again. I mean, that's the greatest fucking comeback story of all time. And you know what? During this whole time period, Ronnie's demeanor, his personality, his outlook on life has never changed one iota. He's always positive. He's always smiling. He's always there for the fans. He's polite. He's, he doesn't have any regrets. His only regret is that he didn't lift 800 pounds on the squat for an extra 2 reps because he felt he stopped short of doing all the reps. I mean, the guy is just he's unbelievable.
You know who would have been a great training partner for him?
Who?
Take a guess.
I don't think anyone can keep up with this guy.
No. But that's why I said take a guess. Think psychotic.
I don't know. Who? John Defenders? I don't know.
Tom Platt.
Who?
Platts.
Oh, Tom Platt. Oh, yeah, probably. Yeah, the 2 of them, 2 lunatics. Yeah.
Gosh, there'd be 2 peas in a pod. It'd be nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, buddy.
Yeah.
They should have done a leg training session together back in the day. That would have been some video. That would be a video that would have 6 million views probably on YouTube.
Well, the whole idea that he did his whole career, chest, shoulders, tri, next day back, by leg, and then repeated it with Sundays off.
You remember that's every show we do goes full circle. Remember that squat off that Tom Platts had against Fred Hatfield? Speaking of Fred Hatfield, I think they did 500 for reps.
Yeah.
Who won that? Was it Platts won that?
I don't
or
know.
Hatfield?
They were both crazy.
Yeah, they were both great. Ronnie probably would have beat both of those guys. Ronnie would have been like, "This is easy, man. If only 500, we're only doing 500."
Ronnie would have come to one of your bros versus pros, Dave, 5 days out.
No, because I told you the story. I'll end this story. Speaking of, I was just talking to my good friend Jimmy Pellecci earlier today, but we used to at the Metrex booth. They used to have a contest, and I've told the story. If you heard it, I'll repeat it. If you haven't, it's a good story. And at the Metrex booth back in the 90s, they would do beat the bull. So Jimmy the Bull would do reps like 225 on the bench. You do 225 bicep curls, and so Jimmy was at the booth, and the whole weekend people would get to go, and then Jimmy would be the last one to go. And that really was the beginning of Bros versus Pros. That's where I got the idea for it. So there would be fans that would do a lot, pretty there were guys, and then Ronnie worked for Metrics at the time, and Ronnie's like, "Man, can I go too?" Now remember, Jimmy was training for this thing because he knew that at the Metrics booth at the Arnold and that we were going to do this contest. Ronnie didn't even know the contest was existing. So Jimmy's like, "Yeah, you can go." He's like, "All right." So since Ronnie was a pro at the time, they're like, "You go right before Jimmy goes." So Ronnie got on the bench and did like 80 reps with 225 or whatever they had on the bar. I don't even remember what was on the bar. And then he did like 90 reps with 225, and Jimmy couldn't do that many. Because Jimmy didn't think he had to beat anyone. He knew he could beat the fans. He didn't think he had to beat Ronnie Coleman. And Ronnie hadn't practiced at all.
Of course.
But he was just so strong that he's like, that's all the weight we're doing? Like it was like a joke for him.
Yeah.
And Ronnie did full range motion on everything. Where Jimmy had this little short reps he was doing, and Ronnie won the contest. That's how genetically gifted Ronnie was.
Milos will probably watch this, but maybe I'll tell him to watch it.
Yeah.
I've told the story before. Is before Ronnie came into his own, he was really into his own. He competed up in Montreal, and man,
I think Milos was in that show, right?
Milos looked wild. That was his one of his. Had a lot of shows where he was really good.
I think he was third there, right?
Yep. And Wheeler was outstanding.
Yeah.
And those days they came out, I think it was like, they'd bring out like one guy at a time. First guy out before the quarter turns to bring. So I think Gunter was in the show, looked pretty good. And there were like 30, 40 guys in the show. And Milos came out, and Milos, nobody knows how to present their body better than Milos. Well, maybe Wheeler.
Yeah.
And came out, and he just looked so full. And I remember sitting in the audience thinking, like, God, I wonder how he got that full on that. There was a lot of fullness with, just he looked tremendous, and he looked very, very tight and separated. And then Wheeler came out.
Right.
And Wheeler looked like Wheeler, like phenomenal. And I thought, okay, he's going to definitely beat Milos. And then Ronnie came out, and he just was absolutely diced out of his mind and rock hard and full. And Ronnie didn't even I don't think he knew it. And after the show, he was signing autographs. And I went up to him and said, "You are absolutely 100% going to be Mr. Olympia." He beat.
You did say that to him?
He beat Flex, yes. And Ronnie was like, "Huh? You think so?" I'm like,
"Wow!" And that was how many years? Was that 2 years before he became Mr. Olympia?
3.
Wow, you said that to him. Okay, yeah. I didn't know you said that to him.
I remember him wearing a sweatshirt that was cut off at the arm, and his arm, his arms in his prime.
Oh, they were insane. Yeah,
his arms were the greatest arms in the history of history in his prime. In '95, I mean, they
nuts.
They were just. He was signing autographs I remember he had a blue pen, and I just remember how his arms were so ridiculously big. And in '95, if you look at pictures from that show, his waist.
Yeah.
Was
tiny, right?
In the sport, without a doubt. I mean, if you want to put up Phil's front double at his best and back double at his best versus Ronnie from '95, I will pick Ronnie all day long.
Yeah, he did have a small waist when he first came out.
The back double, the waist was like CJ wouldn't know how to make a trunk for that body.
He was impressive. You know what the funny thing about his arms are, John? Chris, it was his bicep and his brachialis are probably 95% of the size of his arm. He doesn't even have big triceps.
No,
but it's all bicep and brachialis. It's unbelievable. It's like an arm should not be able to do that, to get that big. And they were big when he was natural too. They were huge.
And I remember he posed. This is how crazy impressive he was.
Yeah.
I don't know what song Milos posed to. I don't know what song Jay posed to. I don't know what Flex or Cormier or anyone posed to. He posed to a slow Barbra Streisand song because the audience just went berserk.
Yeah, and you know what? Lee Hay would be like, "Man, a good big man don't pose to Barbra Streisand, right?"
Yeah.
He was another creature from another planet. I mean, the guy was just second to none. I like I said, I really hope he does walk again. I love the guy, I really do. I mean, there's nothing. I've had such great interactions with him my whole bodybuilding career, and he's been nothing but genuine to me at all times. We actually spent about 8 hours together in a lounge in Australia, the airport lounge, because our flight got delayed like half a day. And we laughed our asses off, Chris, for 8 hours straight. And, Ronnie just had no pretensions. He was just a down-to-earth guy. You could sit and have a beer with the guy, if he just met you, and he would treat everyone exactly the same with respect. He doesn't think he's better than anyone. And that's why people love him so much. I mean, he's just a real guy. He's a guy that, like I said, that doesn't live higher than he needs to. He's just, I know Flex has said this, but he's helped out a lot of people too. A lot of bodybuilders that were down in their luck, maybe needed some help financially. I know he's done things, and he doesn't talk about it, but he's done financial things and helped a lot of guys out. I'm not going to mention names, but that's the kind of guy he is. He's just very genuine. And like I said, if he can walk again, I would, if there's a miracle out there, he will find it. I can guarantee it, so.
Just the name is intimidating, Dave. When people are getting ready for the Olympia for everyone, Coleman, right? Coleman.
Yeah. He was scary.
Sounds big.
Look, I give Jay credit because Jay always said, "I'm going to beat him eventually. I'm going to beat him eventually. I'm going to beat him eventually." Now, the fact that Jay was a lot younger than him, made that reality happen for him. But I mean, Ronnie really beat himself. Jay didn't beat Ronnie. Ronnie beat Ronnie. Ronnie had an injury. His lat, was deteriorating, atrophying. And Jay.
I love Ronnie too, but Jay did beat him on the scorecards in the 01 Olympia.
Yeah, sure. I understand that. But, that was an off year for Ronnie. Ronnie was off, basically. No, Ronnie beat Ronnie in 01.
Ronnie Coleman was not off at the 01 Olympia.
He was. He brought his own condition, wasn't he?
No, just Jay brought in double next level condition.
Wasn't that the year that he said that he had to drink like 40 gallons of water in the morning or something like that because he was cramping a little bit? I don't know. The point is that Ronnie was unbelievable, and there'd probably be never be another Ronnie Coleman.
No, I can't imagine. As Lee Haney would say, did Lee Haney when Lee Haney won the 80? What year did Lee Haney win the Olympia? 85 was the first year. 84.
84 was the first year.
Yeah, 84, because I could have gone to see that darn show, and I took the PSATs instead in high school.
What a waste of time that was.
That's why I said to my son when I dropped him off at college, "Don't worry about grades, just
graduate, just get the diploma."
I remember Lee Haney on Wide World of Sports at ABC. Yeah, they interviewed him on stage, and what was crazy is they interviewed all the guys in the show, and the guys, like, when Lee Haney came on, just took up more space on the, his traps were huge, and and like Coleman, they said, "Do you think you're going to win?" He said, "Oh yeah, I'm going to win for absolutely sure." And they said, "Why are you so confident?" He said, "Because Mother Nature only."
You broke up. What do you say, Mother Nature? What?
Mother Nature only whips up something like me every once in a while.
That's great. That's a classic. That's a classic. Well, once again, congratulations. Good Veto going to the Mr. Olympia 2025 in October. And prayers once again out to CJ, Cynthia James family and loved ones, and John Hec as well. We are out of time. As we say, Chris, every week here at Heavy Muscle Radio.
The truth still hurts.
We'll see you next week.